So today on Schein Chats, we're going to be speaking a little bit about an inclusive work environment and really the importance of creating an inclusive work environment. And my name is Paul Martinez, and I'm an Associate Talent Acquisition Manager here at Henry Schein. Today I'm joined by someone who is very special. I'm joined by John Kemp, who is the CEO and President of the Viscardi Center. John's office does incredible work leading for education as well as employment, and he does incredible work there at the center for empowering people with disabilities and really encouraging people to really get out there and do some great things. Thank you so much for joining us today, John.
Thank you very much.
So I thought maybe we'd get started a little bit today, talk a little bit about just really setting the stage for us and talking about maybe providing us with some information on what it's like to be out in the employment environment and the stats maybe that you can provide to us for employment.
Sure. There are so many people with disabilities who are unemployed, and we've had a very frustrating time in the last 29 years since the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed in 1990. We've only had a 1% growth in the employment rate, and that is really not acceptable to a lot of people with disabilities. We're leaving a lot of talent on the sidelines and a lot of frustration among people with disabilities. So 20% of the adults with disabilities are gainfully employed, and that is a very difficult issue to deal with.
Sure.
And when you compare it with 68% of non-disabled individuals are working. So we're very, very far behind in employment.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about that numerous times and the efforts to really try and provide opportunities for people with disabilities. So, you know, we've discussed this before as well. We're both employers. We both look for top talent, and we look for talent in any form pretty much. And, you know, one of the things that I just wanted to get from you is we do a lot of different coaching. I do coaching and you do coaching as well as there at the center. So what is some of the coaching advice that you can give to people?
Certainly, we have the benefit of having a school for very severely physically disabled children who are also medically fragile, and we empower them to believe in themselves, and we talk to them about if you're going to go out into the workforce, and you will go out in the workforce after you go to college and get another degree, you're going to be sure to talk to the employers about how much they want and need you. What skills do you have that they really want and need? And that's starting number one, just to have confidence in yourself and be able to suggest that to them, and that you can help them solve any problem that they might perceive they might have in hiring you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we always stress as well. So when I'm at your center and I'm meeting with the different people from the center, that's one of the things that we always want to try and encourage, is that people really understand that you do have a value and you can provide that service and that value to any employer out there, and it's important to stress that when you're on an interview.
Well, you're so helpful to our applicants and people who have gotten through our training programs, adults who are looking for employment, when you do the job coaching, and you also do mock interviews for a lot of people with disabilities who really don't know what the workplace is like and what to expect from a tough interview. You might be a real gentle interview, but I have a feeling that they're going to face some tough interviews, and they need to know what the real world is like.
Yeah, and it's great, and I enjoy coming there, and I think it's important for all employers to participate in something like that, because they really can lend their expertise to the staff and help the staff coach those people that are participating in the program, but also the employees get exposure to students there at the school and really get a sense of, hey, there is people who are looking to gain employment. So
That's
it's
right.
important, really important. And, you know, one of the things that we've also talked about is sometimes employers have a fear of bringing on someone with a disability, which is unfortunate, and you've been doing incredible things to break down those barriers and break down sometimes the instances where people aren't aware that someone can come to an employer and really provide a great service. And so what is the actuality in your experiences regarding accommodations and making a reasonable accommodation? What have you seen?
I think the notion of the fear that exists many times among employers is one of the biggest barriers that people with disabilities face. And what is so harmful about that is that employers get so fearful about hiring someone because they're afraid someday they might have to fire somebody. And everybody says, oh, I don't want to fire somebody with a disability. I want to be a good employer, and I want to be perceived well in the community. but it's part of life, and we live our lives just like everyone else, and we have our ups and downs and moments of success and frustration. The other part is the issue of accommodations, and a good employer is accommodating every employee's limitations or concerns, or helping them to become productive. And we regard reasonable accommodation basically as productivity tools that employers have to offer. So even if you don't have a disability, you'd go to your supervisor and say, I need better lighting, I need a more comfortable chair, I need lumbar supports and so in my chair, whatever it might be. An employer would probably gladly do that for that individual. Same applies for people with disabilities. And people with disabilities can't overreach in their ask for an accommodation, and the employer should have every right to say no and find alternatives for them.
Yeah, it's just the importance of communicating to your employer what you might need, and it's also an awareness for employers to understand that people have all different types of needs. Here in our offices, we've made it a point to have automatic doors so people can come and go easily. We have touchpads in one of our buildings to make it easier to gain access to the building. You can make adjustments to desks and have them be raised or lowered depending on the needs. We've also had instances where there are particular types of phones that are needed, so we've made different types of accommodations. So it's just important to get out there and really ask about it.
That's great.
Yeah, most definitely. And so now, what do you believe really would create a truly inclusive work environment? We talked about the accommodations, but what else do you feel would really make for an inclusive work environment?
Well, I think there has to be some climate setting. I think you have to have a proper training and preparation. So some training is usually recommended so that people understand that in disability etiquette, how do you say hello? How do you shake my clamp? How do you acknowledge me as a human being? You and I are good friends, and you know everything about this, but a lot of people are uncomfortable, especially with disabilities that they don't know. And if they don't know about a disability, they're curious, and they really need to be taught and understood. But as a person with a disability, I feel like on behalf of other people with disabilities, we're really good at judging how comfortable you are, and we take it upon ourselves to put you at ease as much as we possibly can. If it's acknowledging just your humanity and bowing and saying, thank you, Paul, thanks for meeting with me, that's really great. So maybe they can't shake hands. It's just a matter of respect.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's a mutual respect, and it's an awareness. And here again at Henry Schein, we try to bring awareness to our interns. We brought them to your facility at one time, and they had a great experience there. And it's great for people to be able to really experience people with disabilities and understand that we're all alike. We all have differences, but we're all alike at the end of the day, and we all bring something to our experiences, and it is a mutual respect. And you and I shared with you one of my favorite quotes, which people confuse small with insignificant. And the reality is, you just have to start. You have to start somewhere. And when you start, once you get that momentum going, it's an incredible feeling when you are able to provide someone with that opportunity when maybe others didn't give them that opportunity. And we've had that experience here. We've been hiring people through the hard work that we've done with your center. And to have that opportunity and to be able to see the reaction it's priceless. And I know it sounds really pretty impactful, but it really is, and it's a great experience.
Well, that's why Henry Schein's the leader. You do it right.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And one of the things that's always important is just to make sure that people understand outside of the Viscardi Center that there are other resources available to them, that they should really make it a point to get out, explore all different resources, and not just focus on one, but look at all the different resources, because if one doesn't work, try another one, and continue that movement forward and continue to look for resources.
Absolutely. You've got veterans coming back with disabilities, you've got people aging into disability, so a lot of different resources out there.
Well, very good points, and I'm glad that we caught up today. As always, it's a great pleasure to speak with you. I really enjoy it, and thank you so much for coming and visiting with us today.
Thank you for having me,
and
Paul.
Thank you for participating in this. It was a great time today, as always.
Thank you.
And it's just important to really thank our viewers out there for joining us today. We always enjoy these Schein Chats. Please be sure to join us again on our next Schein Chat. Thank you so much.